She should be here by now. Bien. So let's get started. Monsieur Eaton! Monsieur Eaton! Monsieur Eaton, I'm talking to you. I'm sorry, Monsieur le Président, I was thinking. Do you understand the indictment? Sorry, but I have to ask the prosecutor to repeat. Monsieur Eaton, do you consider it to be a joke? You're charged with a serious crime. Please stay focused. Monsieur Prosecutor, please continue.
As I said, I accuse Alfred Eaton of murdering Marie Capet on the 17th of October 1894 in Paris. That day, Alfred Eaton was at the theatrical premiere of Prométhée, Vol du Feu, which took place at Opéra Garnier. As it is apparent from the testimony of witnesses, the accused left at about 8:30 p.m., before the end of the banquet. At about 9:25 p.m., he rented a room in his name at the Caucasus Hotel, which is adjacent to the building in which he lives. It was in that room that approximately at 11:16 p.m. Marie Capet was murdered. Next, the accused returned to his house, and at about 10:05 p.m. he entered his apartment in the company of Marie Capet, or let her in. It results from the fingerprint analysis. It did not show the victim's fingerprints on the outer side of the door, only on the inner. Alfred Eaton, by means of deception or threats, led the victim to his secret workshop, which is located on the first floor of his apartment. The police report did not indicate any signs of struggle or resistance. The accused probably wanted to test on Marie Capet the prototype of a torture machine of his construction, which was in the room along with medical tools and manuals of torture. When Marie Capet realized what the accused intended to do, she grabbed a metal rod lying in the room and hit the accused on the head, which caused a real threat to his life and, according to doctors, may have caused unconsciousness. The fingerprints of Marie Capet's left hand were found on the rod, as well as Alfred Eaton's traces of blood. Traces of blood were also found on the floor of that room. At the time of his arrest, the accused had an extensive wound on his head, as confirmed by medical examination. Seizing the opportunity, Mary Capet fled from the apartment. She was stressed and in a hurry. This was confirmed by her numerous fingerprints secured on the inside of the door of the apartment of the accused. Then, Mary Capet ran into a nearby hotel, the Caucasus. It was the same hotel in which the accused rented a room. As it appears from the testimony of the clerk, Mary Capet was extremely stressed, repeating the word doctor and police. Probably she wanted to call for help. When the clerk went to get some water to calm Mary Capet, she disappeared. The next day, on the 18th of October, about 8:32 a.m., a maid found her body in a room rented by Alfred Eaton. It was covered with numerous fingerprints of the victim and of the accused, and had traces of the victim's blood. The immediate cause of death was a severe blow to the abdomen in the liver area, with a blade of about 14 centimeters length. The murder weapon, constructed by the accused, was secured in his apartment. Mary Capet's unwashed blood stains were still present on it, as well as the fingerprints of the accused. The accused is also charged by the testimony of one of the neighbors, who passed the accused at the front door of the building in which they both lived at about 11:30 p.m. The witness testified that the clothing of the accused was stained with blood. Unfortunately, the said clothes were not found. At the time of committing the alleged crime, the accused was sane, which means he acted consciously. For committed crimes, the accused shall be liable to life imprisonment or the death penalty.
Has the accused finally understood the indictment?
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Does the accused plead guilty to the charges against him?
Non, Monsieur le Président.
Does the accused want to provide explanations?
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Monsieur le Président, could I ask you for some conversation time with my client?
Of course. I just wish it would not take too much time. We've already wasted too much of it.
Monsieur Eaton, please note that you can look through evidence at any moment. It is available by pressing Tab. I will show the defense evidence to the court at the time of your uncovering during the testimony. It might surprise the prosecutor. If necessary, you can recall the string of events, according to the prosecution, by pressing the Q key. Will you need my help during testimony? I will give you my advice and remind you of important facts and events. We are ready, Monsieur le Président.
Then let's get started. Monsieur Eaton, what were you doing on October 17th, 1894, from 8 to 12 p.m.?
There was a theatrical premiere of Prométhée that day, which was sponsored by Le Feu, in which I am the lead designer. Starting at 7 p.m., I was at the premiere at the Opéra Garnier. Around 8:30 p.m., after the play, I found that I did not want to attend the dull banquet, and instead I preferred to work. I said goodbye to Hugo Argent, president of Le Feu, and I drove home. I got there at about 9 p.m. For a moment, I admired the charming streets of Montmartre. For a moment, I admired the charms of Montmartre. I do not recall that part. I opened the door and entered the building where my apartment is. I noticed that my neighbor still cluttered the hallway with his old bicycle. I found a letter from the Ministère de la Justice.
Monsieur le Président, this is the evidence marked with number 2. It clearly shows that my client designed his interrogation machine with only the best intentions. According to his plan, it was supposed to be forwarded to the prosecutor's office and law enforcement agencies to improve the effectiveness of interrogation. The prosecutor's suggestions that my client has supposedly intended to use this device to torture helpless women is hasty and completely untrue. This letter only proves that the accused was looking for application of his torture machine and had not found any support from Ministère de la Justice, so he decided to test it on an innocent woman.
The court supports the view that the mere fact of an offer to the Ministère de la Justice does not constitute sufficient evidence that the allegedly accused acted in good faith when creating such a device. Monsieur Eaton, please go back to your testimony.
I noticed that my neighbor still cluttered the hallway with his old bicycle. I opened the inner door. Then I opened the door. I bought a few things from my vending machine. I looked at posters on the bulletin board. I decided to use the stairs instead of the elevator. I decided to use the stairs instead of the elevator. I knocked at Monsieur Brissot's door, and he called back after some time.
Do you always visit your neighbors at such odd hours?
Monsieur Brissot is the only neighbor I like, I believe with reciprocity. He goes to sleep late, and sometimes we like to argue about politics and the influence of La Révolution on today's France.
Please, return to your testimony.
I opened the door to the living room of Monsieur Brissot. There was a letter tucked into Monsieur Brissot's book. The Lordship Service Association was the sender.
Monsieur le Président, this is the evidence marked with number 10. It is a letter sent by a fictitious organization to Monsieur Brissot, which, as it was said in the letter, cultivated traditions of the French nobility and was sending Madame Capet as servant for free. The letter was sent several days before the murder. So the question arises, who had really sent Marie Capet to Monsieur Brissot? And what were their intentions?
Thank you for the clarification. The accused may continue to testify.
The apartment of Monsieur Brissot was full of memorabilia. I looked at them for a moment. For a good 10 minutes, I talked to Monsieur Brissot. And again, we had an argument about La Révolution. Monsieur Brissot felt regret that in modern France, the high birth was no longer relevant. Also, he boasted that he had hired a maid. I do not know where he found the money for her salary and did not see any effects of her work. His apartment was a mess, as usual.
Wasn't that an odd thing for you?
Yes, Monsieur le Président. If someone hires a servant, one can expect order. And in this apartment, there was none.
Did your neighbors say anything else about the maid?
Yes, I was going to say it. It turned out that it was Marie Capet, my old classmate. We grew up in the same city, and I had not known that she had moved to Paris.
So you admit that you knew the victim?
Oui, I knew who she was. I was curious to see behind the door in the living room, but I didn't want to upset my neighbor with my nosiness. I opened the door to the living room. I was curious to see behind the door, but did not want to offend my host by nosing around. I was curious to see behind the door, but did not want to offend my host by nosing around. I knew how he is I noticed the damaged furnishings. The whole apartment was fit for a major redecoration. I opened the door to the living room. I looked through Monsieur Brissot's heirlooms, his ancestors' bust, family portraits, and chronicles. Then I opened the door and left the apartment. I knocked, but no one answered. I decided to use the stairs instead of the elevator. I knocked, but no one answered. I opened the door and entered my apartment. I glanced on the frames hanging on the wall. Their simplicity calmed me down and allowed me to focus. I opened the inner door. I put my groceries into the cabinet in the kitchen. I was cooking dinner for the next day. I was cooking dinner for the next day. I ate the leftovers from my lunch and drank some wine. I ate the leftovers from my lunch and drank some wine. I opened the door. I checked if the table... For a moment, I watched the fireworks over the rooftops of Paris. Then I opened the door. I pressed the piano key. I cannot play, but I bought the piano to fit the interior decoration. For a moment, I admired the new sculptures that I had recently ordered. For a moment, I admired the new sculptures that I had recently ordered. Then, I opened the elevator grate. Then, I used the stairs. I checked the elements of my cleaning machine, assessing what remained to be done. I worked on my new invention for about half an hour. I turned on the gramophone and listened to some music. Then I opened the door. Then I changed into some clean clothes. I used the stairs. I heard someone knocking at the door. I opened it, and there she was, Marie Capet. I invited Marie Capet inside. She said she remembered me from school and was curious how things turned out for me. She had been recently hired as a maid by my neighbor, Monsieur Brissot. I showed her my apartment, my designs and inventions. She was delighted. So I thought maybe she would be interested in my interrogation machine. I took her to my private workshop. Then I felt a blow to my head, and I collapsed on the floor. I woke up some time later. My head ached, and I was all covered in blood. Marie Capet was nowhere to be found. I saw a spare part of my invention lying on the ground. I saw traces of my blood on it. I saw that the safe was open, and Capet had stolen the designs of my most important invention.
Why do you think Madame Capet did it?
I don't know, Monsieur le Président, but I was going to find out. I read for a while about the history of torture.
Are you interested in this subject?
It is not about hurting someone, but to use pain as one of the methods to convince someone to testify.
Do you think it is acceptable to inflict pain during the interrogation?
In extreme cases, yes, but my device is not inflicting it. And the prosecutor naming my device the torture machine only shows his deep ignorance on that subject.
Order, please. And I admonish the accused to make no offense to any of the participants of this trial. Please, return to your testimony.
My journal, in which I described the construction process of my interrogation machine, was on my desk.
This is the evidence marked with number 3. It clearly shows that my client had only his best intentions during the construction of his interrogation device. According to his plan, it would be forwarded to the prosecutor's office and law enforcement agencies in order to improve the effectiveness of interrogation. My client also wrote that the first test of the machine would be conducted under the supervision of the Ministère de la Justice.
Thank you, Counselor. The accused may return to his testimony.
I saw a metal rod on the ground. There was blood on it. My blood. I watched the frames hanging on the wall. I loved their simplicity. It enhanced my creativity. I opened the inner door. I started to work on my new cleaning machine. After 30 minutes, I decided to take a break. I checked the elements of my cleaning machine, assessing what remained to be done. I glanced on the frames hanging on the wall. Their simplicity calmed me. I used the stairs. I took a bath and washed off the blood. Then I opened the door. I opened the inner door. Then I opened the door. I opened the door and walked out into the stairwell. I decided to use the stairs instead of the elevator. Then I used the stairs. Then I opened the door. I opened the door and walked out into the street. For a moment, I admired the charms of Montmartre. Later, I wanted to start the car and go for a ride, but it ran out of fuel. From l'Opéra Garnier, I already returned on fumes. Then I read cultural announcements. I looked at slogans inciting to the new revolution. I looked at slogans inciting to... For a moment, I admired the charms of Montmartre. I do not recall that part. I do not recall that part. For a moment, I admired the charms of Montmartre. Then I read cultural announcements. I drank some decent champagne. For a moment, I admired the charming streets of Montmartre. I opened the door and entered the building where my apartment is. Then I opened the door. I decided to use the stairs instead of the elevator. I knocked at Monsieur Brissot's door, and he called back after some time. I opened the door to the living room of Monsieur Brissot. I was curious to see behind the door in the living room, but I didn't want to upset my neighbor with my nosiness. I opened the door to the living room. I started asking Monsieur Brissot about his new servant, if he knew where she was and what she had been doing in my apartment. He said he had no knowledge whatsoever about any of this, and he regretted that she had violated the peace of the building. He let me look around her room because he thought that maybe I would find some sort of clue explaining her outrageous behavior. I opened the door to Madame Capet's room. There were clippings about me hanging on the wall. They described my access to money, my inventions, and my achievements.
Monsieur le Président, this is the evidence marked with number 7. One can conclude that the victim is obviously obsessed with my client.
Thank you for your clarifications, Monsieur Eaton. Please continue.
I opened the cabinet. I found a letter in her bedside table addressed to Marie Capet. Someone had ordered her to obtain secret designs of my new invention. Her employer knew about the secret passage in my apartment, and he knew the combination of the safe. She was supposed to act on the day of the Prométhée Première funded by us, and which I attended. After gaining the designs, Madame Capet was supposed to meet her employer in the apartment on the top floor of the Caucasus Hotel. The letter was not signed.
Monsieur le Président, this is the evidence marked with number 8. It clearly indicates the intention of committing the crime by the victim, which, according to my client's testimony, Madame Capet committed on the day of her death. Not only did she break into the apartment of my client, deprived him of his extremely important documents, but also she was acting with the intention to kill him by hitting him on the head with a heavy object, which resulted in loss of consciousness and brain damage. Then she fled the scene without calling for medical help or making sure that my client was alive. So your client had sufficient motive to commit that murder.
Gentlemen, please calm down. The evaluation of the evidence is in the hands of the court. Monsieur Eaton, please continue.
I examined Marie Capet's read, and it was a socialist scribble of Charles Marx.
Monsieur le Président, this is the evidence marked with number 6. It shows Madame Capet's socialist views, which could have intensified aversion towards my client.
Thank you for your clarification, Monsieur Eaton. Please return to your testimony.
I opened the cabinet. I closed the cabinet. I opened the door to Madame Capet's room. I opened the door to the living room. Then I opened the door and left the apartment. Then I used the stairs. Then I used the stairs. Then I opened the door. I opened the door and walked out into the street. I opened the door and walked into the Caucasus Hotel. I've just received an urgent package from the Procureur de la République containing new evidence in the case. I ask both the parties to get acquainted with it. It is a letter from the attorney's office from 1 week before the murder, which calls Alfred Eaton in attendance to forward the designs of the invention which he has constructed in secret from Le Feu Company. The firm acted on behalf of the president of the company, Hugo Argent. Monsieur Eaton, have you received the letter?
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
When did you receive it?
I don't remember exactly, but probably on the 10th of October.
So, exactly 1 week before the murder.
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Which designs are mentioned in this letter?
Designs of my secret invention on which I was working in my free time. It has no connection with Le Feu.
Therefore, why did the firm send you this letter on behalf of Hugo Argent?
Hugo must have guessed what great potential my invention had, and how profitable it could be.
Did you keep your designs in your apartment?
Oui, Monsieur le Président, in the safe, in my secret workshop.
Due to the new circumstances which may be relevant to the case, I order rehearing of Hugo Argent. Please summon the witness. And at this time I announce a break. The next court session will be held tomorrow at the same time.
Mon cher ami, I am in a deep regret that you had to stand before the court accused of such a terrible deed. I assure you that I deeply believe in your innocence and will do my best so that you can continue to work for the glory of Le Feu and toute la France. Cordialement, Hugo Argent. You gypsy scum. You can be sure that you will take responsibility for what you have done to our daughter. You will be beheaded, and even neither your millions nor your connections will be able to help you. Is the stolen money not enough? Is your wrongdoing to all these poor people not enough? You had to tear everything away from us, including our only daughter. Death to the rich. Vive la nouvelle révolution. Cher fils, your father and I are quite sure that you did not do it. You couldn't have. We love you, and we are waiting for you at home. Please leave this cursed Paris and return to your home parts. Mama
et Papa. P.S. Papa asks you not to mention the hotel guest book. Apparently you know what that means?
Monsieur Eaton, please hurry. The court is already in waiting. Bienvenue, messieurs. We are all present, so we can begin. To begin with, I inform you that Hugo Argent submitted further clarifications on the letter from the attorney's office discussed yesterday. His testimony has been attached to the evidence. Monsieur Eaton, please continue your testimony from the moment you've ended yesterday. I threw a coin into the fountain of the hotel lobby. Then I opened the elevator grate. Then I took the elevator to the first floor. Then I opened the elevator grate. I took the elevator to the second floor. Then I opened the elevator grate. I examined the historic tableware. For a moment, I admired the images showing the beauty of Paris. Then I opened the door. I opened the door and entered the room. As I walked in, Madame Capet was standing by the desk, counting money from the suitcase. She didn't notice me. I told her to return my designs. It's obvious that she was interested only in the money because she gave them back without hesitation. I drank some decent champagne. I went out into the corridor. So, you claim that you did not kill Marie Capet? Oui, Monsieur le Président. When I left the room, Marie Capet was still alive. I understand. Please continue, Monsieur Eaton. I opened the inner door. I opened the elevator grate. Later, I took the elevator to the ground floor. Then I opened the elevator grate. Next, I wanted to open the door to the restaurant, but it was closed because of the late hour. I opened the door and walked out into the street. I opened the gate. For a moment, I opened the door and entered the building where my apartment is. In the hallway, I passed the neighbor who was coming out of the building. He just could not notice the blood on my clothes because there simply was none there. Then I opened the door. Then I used the stairs. I decided to use the stairs instead of the elevator. I opened the door and entered my apartment. I glanced on the frames hanging on the wall. Their simplicity calmed me down and allowed me to focus. Then I used the stairs. I opened the inner door. I was tired after the banquet, so I immediately went to sleep. I was even too tired to undress.
Is it all you want to testify, Monsieur Eaton?
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
And so I close the hearing. It is time to present your positions.
Monsieur le Président, the accused tried to trick himself off the responsibility. He used cunning rhetoric, trying to hide more and more of his new lies. However, in view of the evidence presented by the prosecutor, I have no doubt that Alfred Eaton, defendant who appeared today before the court, murdered Marie Capet in cold blood. Please, let the High Court not be deceived by his tearful stories about a poor gypsy from the country who gained his success with hard work, and which Marie Capet so cleverly tried to destroy. It was the accused who destroyed the life of a poor girl and her family with full premeditation. And what did that poor girl do to deserve such cruel fate? She was searching for a better life, and was employed as a maid in the same building in which a dangerous psychopath lived. According to the prosecution, the accused is guilty, Monsieur le Président. Therefore, I apply for recognition of Alfred Eaton, defendant who appeared today before the court, guilty of all charges against him, and for imposition of the death penalty by beheading on the guillotine. Thank you. Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Prosecutor used a lot of high-flown words. However, during the preparation of indictment, he made many mistakes. As to the hotel room, my client had never rented a room in the Caucasus Hotel. The guest book was falsified, and the clerk made a false statement. As to the alleged attempt to use the torture device on the victim, my client did not intend to use his interrogation device, which the prosecutor describes as a torture machine, neither on Marie Capet nor on anyone else. This is indicated by the letter sent by my client to the Ministère de la Justice with a proposal of a lawful use of the equipment to serve the law as well as society. The journal of Alfred Eaton clearly proves it, where he writes that he does not intend to use his device against honest, innocent people. It is important to emphasize the relationship of Marie Capet and my client. According to the testimony of the victim's parents, she felt a deep resentment and contempt, both for my customer and for his work and success.
It is confirmed by Madame Capet's read, a socialist work of Karl Marx, which was created to destroy the minds of young people. Newspaper clippings about Alfred Eaton were found in Marie Capet's room. Is it not strange? It makes this resentment towards my client possible. As to the meeting with Marie Capet in his apartment, indeed, Marie Capet came to visit my client at his apartment, and Alfred Eaton let her in, not expecting such a sudden attack. Hence the victim's fingerprints in the apartment of my client, and traces of Monsieur Eaton's blood, which were mentioned by the prosecutor. Marie Capet came to the apartment of my client with the intention of theft. This is indicated by the letter that my client found in the room of Madame Capet. As for Alfred Eaton's weapon, please note, Monsieur le Président, that my client testified that he had not had the murder weapon on himself. The knife was in his secret workshop all that time. Everyone could have stolen it and then dropped it off. As for the murder, as my client testified, he did not kill Marie Capet. So, who did? Please note, Monsieur le Président, that Alfred Eaton worked on a secret invention, which designs he kept hidden in his own safe. Neither Hugo Argent nor Le Feu Company were supposed to ever know about it. But that is not what happened. Monsieur Argent not only learned about the invention, but also wanted to come into its possession. This is indicated by a letter from a law firm that was sent to my client. As it clearly appears from the letter to Monsieur Brissot, the maid, Marie Capet, was sent shortly before the murder. I would like to add that the letter was sent from a non-existent organization, and remuneration for Marie Capet's work was not provided. So who and why had she been sent? As I mentioned, Marie Capet was supposed to steal the designs from the safe of my client. Is this the true reason why she started to work for my client's neighbor? Thus, there is a reasonable suspicion that Marie Capet was sent by Hugo Argent, who decided to partake such radical steps when the letter from the law firm had not brought any results. Why did Marie Capet die? Maybe she had to be silenced. Maybe she demanded more money or started to blackmail Hugo Argent. There are many different possibilities, and there is a slight chance they will get determined. On the other hand, I think that there are too many doubts to convict my client. As for the testimony of the neighbor who saw Alfred Eaton entering the building covered in blood, according to my client's testimony, the meeting actually took place, but his clothes were clean, and the witness could not have seen blood on it. Taking into account the evidence from the neighbor's opinion, the witness might have had a motive, an aversion towards my client, and racial prejudice. Thank you, Monsieur le Président. Cherchez, your father and I are praying for you, and we believe that the court will be merciful. Maman et Papa. Postscriptum. Papa is sorry that it did not work as he had planned. Monsieur Eaton, the French Gypsy Association wishes to send you support and condolences for the persecution caused by your gypsy origin. We are aware that it was the main cause of your indictment. We offer you a safe haven if you decide to leave the prison in less official way. One of our persecuted members, who had also been imprisoned in the Prison de la Santé, mentions the decayed walls in most of the cells. Maybe you could use this information? Signed, X.
Monsieur Eaton, please hurry. The court is ready to announce the verdict.
The verdict on behalf of the République Française. The court, as present, hereby finds that Alfred Eaton, accused of murdering Marie Capet, is guilty of the charges against him, and sentences the accused for life.